Now, I know there's still plenty of Game Week 34 still to go, but I couldn't resist making some content for you guys. So here are players to buy and avoid ahead of Game Week 35. So the first thing I wanted to cover on this video was just looking at the teams that have a double game week before the end of the season. So looking at game week 35, we've obviously got a double game week for Chelsea and Tottenham. So given it's a game week 35 video, we're going to do a bit of focus on those two teams coming up. But also, I think when buying players for game week 35, you need to be cognizant of a future double game week in 37 as well. Those teams being Brighton, Chelsea, Man City, Man United, Newcastle and Tottenham, obviously. That's 6 more teams in addition to Chelsea and Tottenham with a double game week before the end of the season. Right then, so as I mentioned, going to do a bit of a deep dive into both Chelsea and Spurs assets. Tottenham up first, and I'm going to be a bit pessimistic when I talk about both of these teams, to be honest, because yes, they're scoring goals, but I think both teams are not necessarily all that good defensively. And from a Tottenham perspective, beyond Son, there aren't really, honestly, any players that I would say are great picks, like absolute must-haves for your team. I think if you're going into game week 35 without Son, you should probably be a little bit worried. However, the rest of the players in the decent pick category, I think you probably get away with not owning them, but obviously they're decent picks, right, with a double. Porro, Vicario, Maddison, Johnson, Kulusevski and Richarlison, I'd say those all fall in sort of the decent pick category. In terms of the players to avoid, I'd pretty much say all of the others. Maybe Romero is an exception, just with a bit of goal threat that he possesses. Udogie's now out for the season. Emerson's going to probably play, so he could well move into the decent pick category as well. But I don't know what you think. Maybe this is a bit too pessimistic of me, but genuinely, beyond Heung-min Son, I don't think there's a Tottenham player that I would say should be an absolute banker in your team. Let me know in the comments, though, what you think of that. And next up, it's a similar theme, I'm afraid, with Chelsea. I think Cole Palmer, obviously he is one of the best players in FPL right now. And of course, with a double in 35 like he has, he is a great pick. Decent picks from a Chelsea perspective, I'd say Gusto at right back, playing extremely attacking from a right back perspective. And I think with Reece James probably out for the rest of the season, I think he's a great option. I don't think Reece James is going to be back for 35 at least. So that means I think Gusto's got a clear run to start a couple of games there. Nicholas Jackson, I think, is pretty decent. He's looking threatening pretty much every game that he plays. He's just not all that good in front of goal. So I can't say he's a great pick for that reason, but I do think he's decent. Petrovic and Cucurella. I think Cucurella seems to be, the major first choice left back for Chelsea at the moment and playing pretty well, keeping Chilwell quiet and out of his place. So, well, most parts out of his place. So yeah, maybe he's a decent option as well. Chilwell, of course, played in the game against Man City, so it could mean that he's rotated back out again, allowing Cucurella to play. And then Petrovic in goal for Chelsea, I think, is decent as well. I don't really think there's a major outstanding goalkeeper in the game at the moment, so you could well go for Petrovic. I've got to be honest, though, beyond any of those players I've mentioned, or those 5 Chelsea assets that I've mentioned, I'd probably avoid the rest of them. Right, we'll get onto some assets now that don't necessarily double in game week 35, but they do double. Some of them double in game week 37, and some of them don't double at all, but I still think are really good assets. Now, can you believe it? We've only got 4 game weeks left of the season from game week 35. It's just crazy to think that we've got through the season all this way. So there's only 4 game weeks showing on the top, the next 5 fixtures expected points, basically, as you can see there. But Isak is the first player I wanted to talk about. I think he's fantastic. However, yes, he always performs whenever he's in that Newcastle team. He takes the penalties for them, of course, when there's no Wilson in the side. He's got a great run of fixtures. Obviously, Sheffield United, Burnley, Brighton and Man United in a double game week. I think both of those fixtures he could quite feasibly score in. And then Brentford to round off the season in 38. I think that's 4 really nice, game weeks, right? And yes, of course, his expected returns per 90 sit at 0.9. There aren't many players in the whole world that reach that level of numbers. He's got 17 goals in 21 starts. I don't know how you feel, but with Isak, just with his injury record ever since he signed for Newcastle, I believe that he is as likely to genuinely pull a hamstring as he is to get a 10-point haul. So I say he's a good option, but I just proceed with caution because, well, ever since certainly joining Newcastle, he's got a pretty horrendous injury record. I think last season he spent over 150 days out with an injury, and this year it's over 50. So a lot of time on the sidelines, but he looks to be, back fit, probably 100%, and may well play all of those games. But just one thing to keep an eye on with him. As for Anthony Gordon, though, I think there's very little downside to this guy. He plays every game. I mean, even when he's an injury day, even when he's left the game week before on a set of crutches, Eddie Howe has lied about his fitness, and then he started the week after. So you really just set and forget Anthony Gordon and expect him to play, basically, even like on a broken leg. He's in great form, of course, putting up really decent numbers. One thing I would say about Gordon is that statistically he is a lot better at St James's Park than he is away from home, so that's just one thing to look out for. 29 starts, 10 goals, 13 assists, so what's that, 23 attacking returns in 29 starts. Absolutely fantastic. Obviously spoke through the fixtures when going through Isaac. They both play for Newcastle, so have the same fixtures. Sheffield United, Burnley, a double game week, and Brentford. I mean, Gordon could conceivably score in all of those games, in my opinion. And he's great value, 6.1 million. I think players might be put off by Gordon trying to just spend all of their money. Like, it's the same sort of thought as to captaining Cole Palmer. Like, is he too cheap of an asset to be spending a midfield spot on? I mean, I don't really care about price with Gordon. I think he's fantastic. And he's probably a lot better than midfielders in the game that are substantially more expensive. I really like him. I don't know about you guys, but I think Phil Foden is probably the best Man City midfielder in FPL. I mean, he's put up some absolutely fantastic numbers, and I think his injury record alone just suggests that he's better than Kevin De Bruyne, just because you don't know when Kevin De Bruyne is going to be rested. I think Pep's being very cautious with using De Bruyne, just with the injury to the hamstring that he's picked up recently. So for that reason, I think Foden's probably the best Man City midfielder. And again, Man City have got a nice double. Fulham and Tottenham in 37. Nottingham Forest, Wolves and West Ham around that. I think that's a lovely set of fixtures over the next 4. I would expect, of course, some Pep roulette over that run. Obviously, they're out of the Champions League now, to be fair. So it's just the Premier League, I guess, and FA Cup still to focus on. But I guess that reduces the Pep roulette, actually. That's a good point to mention. I mean, could it mean that Foden just plays every game of the Premier League now? People saying he's the player of the season, best player in the league. I'd argue with that, but I think his place in the Man City team is safe, and yeah, I think he's a fantastic option for the next 4 weeks. Now, I've spoken a lot about double game week players, but Ollie Watkins is still the top point scorer in FPL. Yes, he doesn't have a double game week coming up, but I still think he can compete with all of those players with a double, just with the amount of returns and how well he's been playing this season. That's already been proven, really, since he's returned from his injury. Players with double game weeks or good fixtures, etc., they've not been able to compete with Watkins so far. He's been absolutely fantastic since coming back. So I just asked the question, rather than going for those double game week strikers, could you hedge against them and just pick the top scoring player in the game in Ollie Watkins? And I think that's a decent set of fixtures he's got coming up. All 4 of those defences he's about to face are not the most locked up, right? Chelsea conceding goals, Brighton conceding goals, Liverpool not all that solid, Crystal Palace not that amazing either. So I think Watkins could conceivably score in all of those games. And what's that? 19 goals, 15 assists, 33 starts. So that's 34, just doing maths, 34 attacking returns in 33 starts. I mean, the guy's having a phenomenal season. And I just think, he could well compete with some of the double game week assets as an option. I'm dodging bullets when I suggest this one, but I genuinely think Onana is a decent pick. Man United, as we know, they've got the ability to keep clean sheets. Yes, they've conceded, I think, as many shots in the league as Derby County did when they got their, I think, 13 points or 11-point total season. But for me, right, and yeah, you can argue against me all you want in the comments, feel free to, but I think the best goalkeepers in FPL are ones that make a really decent amount of saves, but also show an ability to keep clean sheets. And I think across the season, Onana has proven that. He's got 8 clean sheets, which makes him, one of the leading goalkeepers in the league for clean sheets. That's how, few and far between they've been. He's made 3.84 saves per 90. So that means pretty much every time, I'd expect him pretty much every time to go out onto a football pitch and get saves bonus in FPL, right? So comparing to someone like Raya, for example, Raya, obviously in game week 34, that didn't necessarily happen because he got bonus points. But that's not going to happen every game with Raya. He's mostly going to rely on clean sheets and maybe picking Onana, particularly with a double in 37, although Newcastle and Arsenal, they might not keep a clean sheet there. But could you expect, 1 or 2 clean sheets in that run, but consistent saves bonus every game? Could that be a factor to consider when picking a goalkeeper? I think he's performing really well. I mean, yeah, I really like him as a player and probably as an FPL option. I just thought it was a clever little differential to potentially consider. And I mentioned when going through Phil Foden that Man City have got a decent fixture run, of course, including a double game week in 37, which might make you think, well, I want to triple up on Man City. Potentially I could go Foden, Haaland, and then maybe a defender. I just wouldn't go near them, particularly this season. I mean, look at all those options they've got. Guardiola, Akanji, Diaz, Walker, Ederson and Ortega have been rotated. John Stones and Ake. Sergio Gomez, who's not even on here, makes the bench. Rico Lewis as well. They've got so many defensive options that I don't think anyone can predict the exact starting team that Pep is going to go for every week, particularly with defenders. I think Phil Foden, you can say his minutes are pretty good, but as for Man City defenders, I don't think you can bank on any of them to play consistently. And even if they do, I don't think they're really keeping many clean sheets. I think Pep's kind of changed his tact with his team. And rather than trying to keep it locked tight in defence and not concede goals, he's just trying to outscore teams. So for that reason, and the fact that, I mean, you can't say any of them are going to play every game. Maybe with the exception of Ederson. Yeah, I don't like the Man City defence. And if you were looking to triple up ahead of 37, I wouldn't do so with a defender. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I have to forgive my different lighting and background arrangement this week. I'm actually on a holiday, but I took my recording equipment with me because, well, I didn't want to miss a week of making FPL YouTube videos. So my camera, microphone, and everything has been brought with me. So I hope you appreciate the effort I've gone to while I'm on holiday. Hopefully the audio came out okay. I'll watch that back on the edit. Sorry about the lighting. I've done my best. I've got like a portable light here as well that's been helping me along. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that one. Let me know by leaving a like rating. Let me know in the comments what you think of some of those picks. And if you enjoyed the video and you're new around here, you can subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there on your screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.